Welcome to the Sincerely God podcast. I'm Sarah, and I believe that God is speaking to all of us all the time and in many different ways. The primary way that I listen is through two-way journaling. And on this podcast, I share excerpts from my journaling time with God, which are really inspirational messages spoken from the perspective of God to you. I'll talk more about what two-way journaling is and explore other methods which may be helpful for you to listen to God in your own unique way. I'm just an ordinary person who gets to hear from an extraordinary God, and I believe you can too. Thanks for joining. Hi everyone. Well, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be sharing an excerpt that is talking about just becoming more aware of God's presence. I feel like it goes well with a little bit of the last episode of how do we shift our awareness to God's love that is already with us. So here's the excerpt that I'm going to share. He says, "Let's go through this day together. Stay near to me throughout the day. I am with you, but you are not always aware of my presence. The ways of this world create distractions that pull your attention away. You must be intentional about seeking me. Seek me in everything, every task, every decision, every moment. Seek me in the quiet place. Seek stillness and rest with me. Be still with me throughout your day. This will not always come easily. You must seek it. You must seek me. I am always with you, but you must turn your senses to me. Yes, sometimes I choose to turn your senses to me, but this is not ideal. The more you turn your awareness to me, the easier it will become and the more natural it will feel to you. As you do this more, you will become better at it to the point that you don't even have to think about it. It will become natural to you. This is how I intended my people to live, ever connected and fully aware of my presence with them. Be an example to others. Share with them what you learn and experience with me in my presence. I created you to be a teacher and a messenger of my goodness and glory. Don't be afraid to teach and share with others. This is part of my purpose for you. I have much planned for you, my child. Come to me. Meet with me early and often. Let me teach you and show you the way. You must learn before you can teach. You must receive before you can share. A messenger must receive and know the message before he can give it to those he is sent to. Receive and know. Receive my love. Receive my goodness. Know who I am. Know my power and my glory. Receive, my child. Take time to receive from me. This time is well spent. This time is what you need. Spend time with me, my child. Make this time a priority. There will always be more work and tasks and to-dos. Make time for me. Be still with me, my child. Connect and receive. Connect and rest in my presence. Come to me and I will give you rest. Come to me and I will give you what you need. I am what you need. I am your supply. Everything else can fade and fall away, but still I am. Receive this truth and know it. Own it. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am no other. I am. So there's so much in this message about the intentionality of turning our awareness to God, that we are to seek that space, we're to seek stillness, we're to seek God's heart, his love, just an awareness of him with us, right? God is communicating to us all the time, but if we're not intentionally opening ourselves, shifting our awareness to hear, to listen, to receive, then we're missing out on all that he is trying to share and give throughout every moment of every day. And he says, be intentional about seeking me in everything, every task, every decision, every moment. And I think it's almost, there is an aspect of creating a habit, right? When you are making a decision, especially bigger decisions, but even small day-to-day decisions, do you invite God into that? And it doesn't have to be this long drawn out prayer of, okay, I'm going to go, spend all this time reading my Bible and just focusing and asking God this one specific question. If it's a big life impacting decision, then that's probably a good idea to spend more time and intentionality and prayer and just stillness with God. But it can be as simple, just God, help me with this decision. God, what do you desire for me to do in this situation, in this opportunity? And the more that you do that, and it becomes kind of just this rhythm, this habit, the easier it is. He says, the more that you turn your awareness to be, the easier it will become, and the more natural it will feel to you. So the more that you turn your attention to him. And again, that can be as simple as just having a thought in your mind that says like, God, open my eyes. God, tune my ears to what you're speaking. God, what do you desire for me today, in this moment, in this situation? What's your desire for this decision? A lot of times when I am asking God for direction, a lot of times he'll say things like, be free, be you, follow your heart is true. Like, there's so much more space that we have to make our own decisions, but there's this beauty of inviting him into it, because there are times that I'm struggling with, well, what is that way? What is best? This is complicated. There's a lot of complexity to it. How do I determine what's the best decision? And sometimes it's inviting God into even that your own internal processing, right? If you are evaluating something, perhaps there's an opportunity, a job opportunity, or something in your life that it's a positive thing, but do you go this way or that way? Do you make this decision or that decision? And you may be evaluating like, here's the benefits, here's the downsides. If you can, before you even start that process, before you even start researching perhaps, right? If you can be intentional with the quickest prayer, just invite God into that process. Lord, give me wisdom, give me strategy, bring me to answers, show me, the full truth. And I fully believe that God can guide you, even if you're just like going on Google and trying to do some research, or he'll have a friend have a conversation with you. You'll have a memory come into your mind that will give you insight, wisdom about the present circumstance. There's so many ways that God can help you in that process to give you wisdom, insight, and your own ability to just really think through and make a good decision. But are we taking that brief moment to just invite him in? Are we being intentional to say, God, I desire your best, not just my own? And sometimes that can be where, we can get caught up in, call it the shiny thing, the short-term thing of like, hey, this looks really good now, and we'll just go after it. We won't even give it a second thought. But if we create this habit of always coming to God and inviting him in, seeking him, seeking his best for us, then sometimes he'll give us pause in those situations, right? Sometimes the thing that looks great right now and we're just so eager to just grab it, sometimes the longer term isn't what's best. And if we have that habit of always stopping and asking God, then it'll give us that briefest moment of maybe he'll give us some insight, or maybe, he'll just give yourself that self-discipline to pause and say like, okay, this looks really good. I want to eat the cookie right now, but is that for my long-term best? Is that ultimately what I desire? And so just creating this intentionality, this habit, and I'm talking about it in the context of decision making, but really it's in everything. I mean, when I sit down and do this podcast, I kind of like, I hit record, but I have a moment to collect myself, and I'm just like, God, help me, right? Be with me in this moment. And that can be, you're stepping into a hard conversation with a friend, or if I have time, to schedule, if I'm meeting a friend for coffee, or, whatever it may be, having like a one-on-one time with a friend, I will pray as I'm driving to that meeting to just say, God, bless our time. Let it be uplifting to both of us. Guide our conversation. And the more that I do it intentionally, the more that it comes naturally without me having to have this, reminding myself to actually say that prayer, invite God in, set my awareness, my openness to say like, hey, God, I'm inviting you into this. So just this aspect of seeking him in all that we do, and recognizing that like there isn't this difference, there isn't a separation between like, okay, well, this is all the spiritual stuff in my life, and this is all the practical stuff in my life. And so, yeah, I go to God when I'm dealing with these spiritual things, but the practical things, I don't even think about God because they're completely separate. That's not the case. Like everything is integrated. The very breath that you breathe is literally God's breath in you. You cannot live without the spiritual aspect of existing by and through God. So don't see it as separate. Recognize that everything is integrated. And so even those small things, those practical things, like I find myself sometimes, it's like the silliest thing of just, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but something's super silly that I'm just like, God, will you please help me with this? I know it's insignificant and kind of selfish, but like, crazy busy at the grocery store. The grocery store by my house is like super small parking lot. It's just always insane. And even just having a little prayer of God, help me find a parking spot. Make this as low stress as possible today. And it's interesting, like oftentimes I don't do that, right? I just kind of go about my daily thing. I don't think about it. But then there are days where maybe I'm feeling especially impatient or stressed and I just know I need the extra help, and I'll say that prayer and then I'll have like the best experience that I could have. I remember doing this recently and it was like pre-holiday, or it was a busy time and I knew the store was going to be worse than usual. And I just kind of said a prayer, okay, help me through this, let it be easy. And it was the best in and out. It wasn't busy. I found everything I needed. It's interesting how we can forget, and then we can take for granted that like we have this God that is with us always, that desires our best and is just waiting for us to give him an opportunity to move in our lives. And like he says here, he says, sometimes I choose to turn your senses to me, but this is not ideal. Like there are times where God can get your attention. And I've learned to kind of rest in that assurance. Like when I'm struggling with maybe certain decisions or just, following a path in my life that I'm concerned whether I'm making good choices or something like that. And I'm learning to rest assured that God has proven that he will get my attention, right? If there's an important decision for me to make, especially if there's an important decision for me to make within a certain amount of time, I've had where like he'll push through, and sometimes that's through friends. Like if you can get friends in your life that are connected to God, that have a regular like lifestyle of listening, and they've recognized the ways that God is speaking to them, and they have a confidence in that, like it can change your life, because now it's like I have this confidence that if I'm missing it, right? Because sometimes we have bad days, we get into just like negative cloud of confusion, turmoil, whatever. We have certain areas in our lives that are just maybe more broken, need more healing, that is harder to hear clearly, is harder to see clearly. And it's just an amazing, just reassurance that I have, that I know if I'm missing it and it's important for me to not miss it, then I have so many friends in my life that God will speak through them to me, and they have. And sometimes they don't even know what they're sharing, right? Because a lot of times when we're hearing from God, it's in metaphor. There's, kind of general things that can mean a little bit different to each person. And so if you perhaps, you may be hearing things to share with somebody. I've had that quite a bit in my life. And oftentimes, like, it doesn't make sense, and you might even be quick to dismiss it, especially if one of the ways that you tend to hear from God is through like visions. You get images in your mind, right? There's a lot of symbolism in imagery. And so sometimes it can seem silly or insignificant, but then you share with the person and it's this super special, like intimate secret that they have with God that speaks exactly what they needed to hear in that moment. So I've had friends that maybe they can see some of what it is, but they don't know this inner like decision that I'm processing with God or what I've been wrestling with. And so they share something that could be applied in different situations. They don't exactly know, but it's exactly what I need to hear, because God obviously knows what is going on inside my own heart and mind. So if you don't have friends like that, get friends like that. It's incredible. And be that friend to other people. Like, hone this ability to be aware of his presence, right? He says, the more intentional, the more that you turn your awareness to me, the easier it will become, the more natural it will feel to you. There is a practice, right? It's not that, it's some skill that you're trained on, right? God is speaking to us all the time, but there is a learning how to, in a way, clear out the noise and remove the distractions, finding that stillness that works for you, right? Your stillness approach. And the more that you do it, the more it becomes easier and the more natural it feels. So take that time. And he even says in here, like, this is time well spent. This is important. It'll impact your life. It will impact the lives of your friends and family. It will impact the world, right? So be intentional. Seek God. Seek his presence. Seek to become more aware of how he's communicating with you, how he is living and active in your everyday life. And as you do, it'll start becoming easier. And you'll get to this point where, like, I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I definitely have a long way to go. But I'm finally getting to this confidence that even if I miss it, I have enough people in my life that if it's that important, God will make sure that I don't get too far off track or I don't miss this opportunity. And it brings a peace that is, for me, I mean, I tend to be, like I say, I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? I'm learning about Enneagram. I tend to be, I think I'm a type 1. And so I'm a very, like, there is a right and a wrong way. And so I always want to get it right. And I can overthink and all these things, but there's a peace that comes when it's like, I don't have to carry that burden of, am I getting it exactly right all the time? First of all, there's so much less exactly right than we think there are. I mean, as I have continuously sought God for clarity, for guidance, for answers, and he certainly has given it to me in a lot of situations, but more and more his response is, be free. You can go right or left. Either way is good. Like, he's teaching me that this life is about living it with him, right? There's not a wrong way and a right way in a sense of go left or right, make this decision or that decision. There is a way of life, and God is the way, right? He says, this is Jesus saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. It's about living our life constantly in connection with Jesus, constantly in connection with God's connection with and awareness of God's presence with us. And, there's a lot of this that's, like I talked about the last episode about receiving God's love. And as you bask in his presence, as you spend time soaking in that love, it changes you, it heals, it transforms, it removes the lies, it removes the protective walls that create the separation. It brings us back to the truest, purest form of who we are. And as you get more to that space, right? You have a pure connection to God who is in you, then you're living that way because you're walking hand in hand with God. And it completely changes the way that at least I think about how I'm going through my everyday life. And habits die hard, right? Like, I still struggle. I still have these tendencies to overthink and get caught up in, is it this decision or that decision? And so many times God's like, why are you worrying about it? Either way is my way. Like, you are with me. I am with you. I am in you. We are one. Just walk down your path. Go your way forward. Like, stop stressing about this specificity of, do I turn left or right? If you're with me, then every way is God's way. And I know I can say that and it can be taken out of context, and we're all in a different like level, path, space in our own kind of faith growth journeys. But I do believe that there is a point for us to get to where we're so seeking him first. We're so aware of his presence in us, through us, all around us. Like we have such a purity of connection with God's Spirit in us that there's this intertwining, right? That spirit, that love is constantly flowing through us. That our hearts get so intertwined with God's that there isn't such a separation. And we can trust ourselves, right? We can trust our own hearts that as we've had healing, as we've built these like rhythms and just, in a way habits, but just ways of life where we are seeking and connected and aware, then it comes naturally, right? The more natural it will feel to you. So I encourage you in that. Like it's a process and it takes a lot of time, and it's not always the easiest process, but there is such freedom in it. There's such freedom as you can get healed and healthy and whole and have these like fears, right? Fear of making the wrong choice. As you can have those peeled back and connected to the truth, right? He says, I am the way and the truth. Then it changes the way you go through your everyday. It changes the way you interact with people in your life. It changes the way you approach decisions. It changes the way you approach tasks and to-dos. But it starts with that intentionality, right? Seek God. Seek God moment to moment, but also seek him in the quiet place. Find your rhythm of stillness, whatever that looks like. It can look different for every person. You may be a person that needs activity. So maybe your stillness is going for a hike or riding your bike. Like there's different things that you can still have that physical movement, but there's a stillness in your heart and mind. And that's where you need to find that stillness. If you can clear out that noise, right? Don't do that hike. Don't do that activity with your headphones in and, the music, podcast, whatever playing. Do that in stillness. Allow God to speak to you as your heart and mind can actually find some calm and quiet from the noise of this world. Our world is full of so much noise, and it takes that intentionality to really find stillness. And what I found in my own life is it's not this immediate, like the second that I create a minute of stillness, I can hear God speaking to me. Like, no, I need to create a rhythm in my life. I need to create space for rest. And once I kind of start getting to that more balanced state, then I have capacity to start calming and being able to tune in. And it does absolutely become easier. But at the beginning, it's difficult and it takes intentionality, but it is so worth it. So just like any other habit, right? We're starting a new year. I'm sure you've got New Year's resolutions. There are things that take intentionality and self-discipline. Creating the space for stillness can start like that. And then I love this other thing he shares about how important it is to receive before we can share, right? To learn before you teach. A messenger must receive and know the message before he can give it to those he is sent to. Just like I was talking about last episode about we have to receive God's love first. And out of that receiving, then we can share it more freely and fully with those around us. It's the same thing, right? Learning how to be still, learning how to seek God in your daily activities, to seek quiet. all of these things, learning who God is, honestly, like learning the character of God, learning his goodness, learning his love, right? All of these things you need to know for yourself before you can teach someone else, before you can share it with someone else. Receive that joy. Like all of these things we have to receive first, because if we don't receive first, they're not real to us, right? He says a messenger must receive and know the message. We have to know it. You can't just hear it, like it's not like passing a note, right? Well, I'm sure that hasn't happened in years. I just aged myself. But when I was in elementary school, we would pass handwritten notes because everybody didn't have cell phones back then. It's not like you're just passing the note along and you don't even need to know what's in it. Like, no, you don't want to go to a class and listen to a teacher teach who doesn't actually know what they're teaching. They're just reading off the slides or reading out of the book. You need to know the message. You need to know the truth that God is the way, the truth, and the life. You need to know the truth that God is love. You need to know the truth of God's goodness. You need to know that for yourself. And the only way to know it is to experience it, to live it, to let it transform your life and the way that you go about your everyday. Like you need to receive first fully so that it is truth to you. And then you can share it. And yeah, we share as we go along our journeys, right? I'm not saying like don't ever tell anybody about what you're learning. Like it's a process, and I have gleaned so much as I have friends in my life who are learning and sharing their processes as they're learning. But just this emphasis on you need to receive, and that is time well spent. Don't think it is a waste to spend time in quiet. Even if you're not, like some of us, I know from my personality, right? I need everything I do to have purpose. Like I struggle to spend time on things that don't have any like actual purposeful outcome. But even just having a moment, feeling peace, feeling God's love, training your ability to recognize that God's speaking to you, even if what he's speaking to you doesn't really have an impact in your day to day. Maybe it's just a truth that you need to be reminded of, but it's not wasted time. It's important time, because all of that is a moment that you're receiving. It's a moment that you're basking in God's presence, that you're receiving God's love. So don't discount that time, and yeah, make time for it. Prioritize it. We can get caught up in like, I need to do this thing and that thing. I need to take care of this person. And you also need to receive for yourself, because you're going to be able to take care of your children better. You're going to be able to, do your job more effectively and just be a positive influence to the people around you as you receive, right? As you receive God's love, it's going to heal, it's going to transform, and then what comes out is going to be more of his love. It's going to be more pure. It's going to have less influence from the lies that you were told as a kid or the brokenness from experiences that you've had. All of it is worthwhile. And so he just says, make time for me, be still with me, connect and rest in my presence. Come to me and I will give you what you need. So I just encourage you to seek God. Seek God in stillness, in the quiet place. Seek God in your everyday, right? You may be in a very busy time in your life and it is hard for you to set aside a block of time. I get that. Find the short increments, even if it's, right, taking in a slow, deep breath and just in that moment having an awareness of like, I live and move and have my being through God, through his spirit, right? The breath in my lungs is through his spirit. So find those ways. Spend time as much as you can to just receive his love. Spend time in his presence. Learn how to recognize and be aware of his presence that is already with you. And then you can teach others. Then you can share with others, and share with others. Like, I know it's something that can be hard. I think we all have different ways that we share with people. I share a lot with the people that are in my closest circle, but I'm not the person that's gonna like walk up to a stranger and start a conversation. That's not me, and that's okay. I'm able to share through this podcast, and I'm able to share with those people that are in my life, and it's beautiful. They share with me, I share with them, and we grow together. We become more healed and whole and receiving of God's love together. So I guess that's the other encouragement is find some people. And maybe that's just, you already have some friends and say like, hey, let's be intentional about this. Let's spend time together. Like I love to spend time with my friends just talking about what we're learning, what God is showing us. Even if it's things that it's like, I don't know, I kind of had this weird experience. I don't know if it was God or not. What do you think? We do that stuff all the time. I can't even count how many times I have friends that are like, I don't know, I might weird you out. And I'm like, trust me, you're not going to weird me out. Find those friends that are open, that are willing to explore and just be in that space with you. So I pray that over you, that you would find your people, that you would find the friends that you already have in your life that are just as eager, and maybe they just don't know how to explain it, or maybe they're hesitant because they don't know what you're going to think. Like, be open. I think you'll be surprised at how open people are. I have found that in my life, that when I have like baby stepped forward and brought up a topic that's a little bit more interesting about the spiritual things, people are a lot more open than I give them credit for. So I bet you have people in your life too that are more open and honestly desire it, right? There's something in us that desires more. Of course, we all desire more love, and love is so multifaceted. It's not going to look the same all the time. And so being open. So I just pray that over you, that you would be more intentional about seeking God, seeking an awareness of his presence, that you would be more intentional about finding that stillness, that you would begin to recognize the ways that God is already speaking to you, and that you would connect with people already in your life, or maybe new friends that can go on this journey with you, and that can be that support system to give you confidence that as you're learning, they're learning, as you're growing, they're growing, and that you can help each other and you can teach each other, and you can share, right? When God's sharing something with you for them and they're sharing what they feel like God is sharing with them, like have that openness. So anyway, I hope this is helpful and that you just continue to grow. Thanks for tuning in to the Sincerely God podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends. If you'd like more information, you can go to my website, sincerelygod.com. There you'll find links to my social media, as well as an ability to get your own copy of Sincerely God, a collection of quotes, either the book or the prayer journal. Until next time, keep listening to how God is speaking to you.